Hi guys, Skypoint here. So, as you might have noticed, the Knights have had a bit of a nerf applied. So in this video, I'm going to talk through the nerf a little bit, and then I'm going to show you how my deck is doing after the nerfs. Alright, so let's start with the Knights and the nerf. So, a lot of people began complaining very quickly after the Knights came out that they were dramatically overpowered. And the stats which were released in the monthly report by the developers pretty much seem to confirm that. They always release this monthly meta report which sort of shows you usage rates and win rates by different warlords. And despite the fact that the Knights were only out for like the last half of November, Cerastus Orlac, so the epic knight with the common pilot, was being used 12% of the time on High Terra and had an amazing win rate at around 63%. So that pretty much validated all the complaints that people had. It was overpowered, so it was being used by too many people, because why not use the most OP things? And it was just winning too much of the time, well, because it was OP. So we've had a bunch of nerfs applied to the Knight, so I'm going to start talking through those. So they made subtle changes, and especially just 4 changes. So give me a moment and we're going to start discussing those. Alright, so the most important change, and it's the thing that people were complaining the most about, was to the Flamer. So the flame cannon on the Knights was previously a weapon which cost 4 energy, it cost 2 plasma to fire it, and if you killed a unit it would allow you to fire again. And this was really problematic because it just meant that Knights players were mowing down all of the troops that opponents could play, and you couldn't build up a board presence which you needed to destroy the flame cannon in the first place. So it was probably the single biggest cause of complaints. And it has been changed now, so that ability to fire it repeatedly is now gone. So, is it a bad card now? Absolutely not. It's still very good, and it compares well in terms of power with the battle cannon. So if you imagine, the battle cannon comes in at 3 energy with 8 health, you spend 2 energy and you deal 3 points of damage to a single target. With the flame cannon, it costs a little bit more energy, it has the same amount of health, it also costs 2 energy to fire, and you deal slightly less damage if there's a single target on the board, 2 points versus 3, and if there's multiple targets on the board, you do 2 damage to all of them. I think that's pretty fair. It makes this sort of like a artillery strike or rain of fire, which is reusable in different turns without having to hunt down the card again. So I think the flame cannon is now in the position where it should have been as the Knight's primary area damage ability. So this has already had a big impact. I think the flame cannon itself was by far the biggest problem with Knights. As I said, it just made it really hard for most decks to be able to deal with them, because you would way too often have troops on different levels of health, and as one troop would get killed by the flame cannon, the health of the others would get reduced enough that they could start getting killed, which would allow you to kill more and more and more, and you'd have this really frustrating cascade to face. So flame cannon change, I love it. Alright, the second very important change with the Knights was that a lot of people were feeling that getting plasma was too easy. And there's actually 2 elements of that problem, but the worst offender was the common pilot, Alsar Orlac, whose ability let you spend 1 energy in order to create 2 plasma. This would mean that it was far too easy by mid-game, so the 5 or 6 energy turn, to have a massive pool of plasma built up if you were just careful with how you played your cards and used his ability. So he's been tweaked. It now costs 2 energy and you gain 2 plasma, and I think that's going to make a big difference, because now it's going to start forcing players to choose in early game between playing a card or gaining plasma. Coupled with that is the other change. So Orlac was very commonly paired with Cerastus armor, because the Cerastus armor already started with 4 energy, and so Alsar Orlac's ability had huge synergy with that, because if you're adding 2 energy per turn on top of 4 energy, it just builds up to a usable pool very quickly. So there's been a very slight nerf to that. It's gone down to starting with 3 energy. I personally think this change is very subtle because in my experience of playing with the Knights, there were relatively few points where I was just a single point of energy. Well, sorry, there were relatively few times when I was just a single point of energy away from using a critical ability. So a very subtle change on that. The bigger factor on plasma generation is from Alsor Orlak's nerf. And between those changes, so the plasma and the flamer, you've already seen from talking to people who are playing at the top of the ladder that Knights are becoming much less common, and you're going back to more traditional builds because you cannot just abuse massive amounts of plasma to feed massive flame cannon attacks anymore. The final change is actually one I wasn't expecting at all. So this one came out of nowhere. So let's go see if I can find that card. So it was a change made to a card which I've never seen played on the ladder. The devs added this, I think a couple weeks or a couple months ago. Ravaged City. So they've now changed this so that it also affects night weapons. And I actually think they did that to try and give people an incentive to play Ravaged City, because it gives you a little bit of an ability to protect your warlord or your troops from the knight's weapons. So for example, if you're going into the 10 energy enemy turn and you know that the enemy is going to have 4 points of plasma during their turn and maybe not much more than that, and you expect they might have a graviton cannon, you can play Ravaged City to buy yourself time, because you'll make the graviton cannon cost 6 energy to fire, 6 plasma to fire, as opposed to just 4. So it's interesting. I think it's still such a niche card, you're not going to see much use of it, but the devs are trying to make some of those less commonly used cards have a purpose, I guess. Alright, so enough of that. Now I'm going to talk about my Knights deck and how it's been doing post-nerf. So I haven't found that much of an impact, mostly because I was using Cerastus Vironi, so the epic armor with the epic pilot. So I was not impacted at all by the nerf to Alsor Orlak. My deck was already focused on using cards to generate most of my plasma. And the biggest impact to me has tended to be from the flame cannon nerf, but as I said, I can't hold that against the devs. The flame cannon was just so overpowered. Alright, let's review my deck. This is similar to what I've had in previous videos, but there have been a couple of changes, so let's go through this. I'm just going to run through from cheapest to most expensive cards. So a pair of Martian Emissaries. These guys are really good for creating plasma, and they're a threat on the board as well, because the enemy knows that if they don't get rid of them, they can easily turn into more plasma for you. House Orlak. So my deck's whole core concept is ranged damage. So House Orlak helps me pull out the right ranged weapon for the job. So I like this card a lot. Overtaxed Reactor. Plasma is life for Knights, and this is great. It gives you plasma and it draws a card. This might be a little overpowered still. It should probably lose the card draw ability, or give you 2 points of plasma and draw a card. 3 points of plasma and card draw is still very strong. Ionic Flare Shield. This is also mostly there for the card draw, but being able to protect your warlord is a fantastic bonus on top. Tech Engineer gives me access to weapons which I normally would not pack. So if there's an opportunity for a good close combat attack, I sort of hope that Tech Engineer will give that to me. Otherwise, I use it just to try to pull out the right ranged weapon for the job again. Maintenance Servitor, he's there mostly for plasma. He's also got a handy healing ability, which can be useful. The Battle Cannon is just the baseline for all weapons. It's great, so a pair of those. Shock Lance. This is also very good, mostly for early game in order to clear out some basic threats, but it has pretty good synergy now with the nerfed Flame Cannon, because the Flame Cannon can fire and reduce a 5 health unit to 3 health, and then the Shock Lance can help you finish it off for less plasma than it costs to fire a Battle Cannon, and the Shock Lance and Flame Cannon combo can work against warded units, as you'll see later. Ocular Augmetics is there for card draw and anti-stealth. It's a very useful card. I've talked about Flame Cannon. Favorite of Mars because Reactor is life. House Maccabeus is a handy card in case I desperately need to make a powerful close combat attack. Repairing is important as well, and repairing with drawing a card and recycling the repair card is great. Stormspear Rocket Pod. I sometimes feel like I want two of these, I just can't work out what I would take out instead. Archmagus Dracovatch is a fantastic legendary, very flexible. Corrupt Usurpation is very important for hard removal, as we'll see. Plasma Regulators is a handy card. I just find in my deck it gets very vulnerable to Melgator. Volkite Cheruval. This is important for hard removal. I've got one copy in my deck, and if I'm coming up to late game and I have not played my Tech Engineers yet, I'll often try to play a Tech Engineer to get a second copy of the Volkite. And Graviton Cannon is my finisher. Alright, so let's take a look at some of my favorite matches with this yesterday after the nerf. We begin with my finest hour against a desperate defense Vulcan deck, which is very popular on the ladder these days. This was a good set of cards to start with, so I decided to keep it. Let's get going. So he starts by creating a troop. Not too bothered by that guy. He doesn't do too much damage and he's hard to remove anyway. So I'm just going to play Overtaxed Reactor, build up my plasma reserves a little. I'm sitting there on 7 plasma. I started with 3, I generated 1, and the Overtaxed Reactor gave me 3. So Vulcan goes ahead and headbutts me with his Warlord. That's all. Comes up to my next turn. So what am I doing? I'm creating a Shock Lance just so I have it in play, but I'm not actually attacking with it. So if he hits me with his troop, I can use the Shock Lance to finish it off. There we go, that's what I was expecting. And what else does he bring in? 4 energy. Oh, he didn't spend it. Interesting. Okay, 4 energy turn. So let's drop the Maintenance Servitor. And now we're going to activate the Shock Lance and take out his troop. And then, just because I can, I'll play my counter attack to heal up my Shock Lance a little bit. And gain another point of plasma. So I'm sitting on 11 plasma now. Hits hard with the Defense Satellite, which just tickles me. Worst Defense Satellite, 1 damage. Alright, so my troop over there is actually still alive, so I'll use his ability to heal my Warlord and my weapon. And drop a Tech Engineer right now, and I'm going to pull out a Battle Cannon for next turn. Salamanders usually don't swarm too much. They rely on a handful of tough units with Survivor. So the Battle Cannon will be more useful for that. 6 energy turns. What do we do here? I'm going to drop a Maintenance Servitor. I'm going to turn on my Shock Lance and destroy Dewback over there. I have 14 energy, which is a healthy amount, so let's bring in my Battle Cannon and blast Vulcan. Okay, so this is looking pretty good so far still. Next up, he goes ahead and attacks me with that. Okay, no problems there. And he wasted an Ash and Bones on that. I think he's just afraid of me healing, or he knows that there's not many tough units in a typical 9 deck. Okay, that's what Dewback stole. Not bad. So let's use my ability here. This is why I like the Byroni pilot, the Epic pilot, because I can keep my weapons alive. Stormspear Rocket Pod destroys him, hits his Warlord, and creates some more plasma for me. I'm still sitting on a usable amount of plasma, 12. Oh boy. This is where things are starting to get tough. He's dropped a demon, which is going to be giving me 0 attack. So my weapons are in danger here. Let's use my Battle Cannon to damage the demon. And give my weapons enough health to survive the turn. And what I'm hoping is I can fire the Battle Cannon again next turn and then drop another Battle Cannon and finish it off. asteroid belt. He's hunting for cards. That's what I'm certain he was a desperate defense deck, because he's trying to find that desperate defense card. That's a good move. He Melgatored my plasma regulator, so that's going to stop me from healing. Demon hits me hard, but because I had repaired my guns with my ability, or rather given them extra health, that worked out. And there's my hard removal. Perfect. So that's when I have around half my deck left. So install the Vulkite, destroy the demon with the Vulkite, activate my Shock Lance, and destroy his troop. Gives me a little bit of energy, so I can actually drop a Martian Emissary and recharge my energy pool a bit. There's Desperate Defense. What's he coming out with? Super tough troop. That's 13 health in total, and another tough troop. Great. Okay, so no question here. Use the Vulkite to destroy his strongest guy. And I'm just going to pause this replay for a moment here, because my plan right now to try and deal with this thing was probably drop House Maccabeus, use my Shock Lance and my Ion Flare Shield to hit this thing for the first time, and then drop a Battle Cannon and shoot it to take it out for a second time. Let's see what actually ends up happening though. I activate my Shock Lance, I activate House Maccabeus, and I get Corrupt Usurpation, and I've got the energy to play it. So let's just hard remove that guy. And no energy left for the Ion Flare Shield, but we'll attack Vulcan directly. Okay, that felt good, but he has another Desperate Defense. What's he got? A bad draw and a decent draw. But unfortunately for him, my Vulkite is still alive. So here's what we do. We're going to blast his toughest troop with the Vulkite. Install my Battle Cannon. Shoot the other guy with the Battle Cannon, which pops his survivors. He's back on 3 health. Attack with my troop to reduce him to 2 health. Bring out the Ion Flare Shield. And then on top of that, I can activate my Warlord's ability twice to give my, especially my Vulkite cannon, a lot of health, and then destroy his troop. So that's both Desperate Defenses dealt with relative ease, as it turns out. Goes ahead and stuns my Warlord, and he plays a Hydra, but again, my Vulkite has survived the turn, so he knows that I can just shoot and destroy the Hydra, so he just quits at this point. I think once his Desperate Defenses were gone, he was in trouble, because his deck basically was full of fat, heavy troops, which he could play 1 of per turn, but my Vulkite would always destroy 1 troop per turn as well. The second fight I wanted to share was against Neman Russ. So this time I put the Vulkite and Plasma Regulators away. I kept Ocular Augmetics because a lot of the times Russ players put out the Imperial 1 attack 3 health stealth sneaky troop. So I thought Ocular Augmetics might help. Start with the initiative, playing Overtaxed Reactor again to try and make sure I've got Plasma to deal with whatever comes. There's that guy. So I do have both Ocular Augmetics in play, but for now, someone doing 1 attack is not my biggest issue. So I'm going to drop a couple units on the board. The Engineer to give me a Templaced Warblade, which will allow me to carve through lots of units and more Plasma. Alright, so he's going ahead with lots of attacks over there. Destroys my board presence. Still has his Nisser Scouts to attack with, which allows his Warlord to attack again. And with that, I've gone from being 5 points of health behind him to 6 points of health. And he's healing up his troops. Great. Okay, I'm still not in a good position, so I'm going to play House Maccabeus for now. And all I'm going to do is hit him. because this sort of buys me a little time. I'm betting that he's not going to be willing to throw his Warlord into my 6 attack. Not repeatedly, and I was right. Okay, so let's install my Shock Lance for now. And the biggest problem is that unit, which is with Pack, which is going to hit me every time one of his units attacks. So I increase my Shock Lance's health and then I attack his unit. I'm doing this deliberately. If my Shock Lance survives the turn, the Templace Warblade and Shock Lance combo will be devastating. It kind of feels like it will. I don't see him being able to stop me at this point. He's really betting a lot on that supercharged Balai, Halfdan Balai, who's going to start his next turn on a whopping 8 attack, and he'll be able to attack me 4 more times before that, so that guy will be on 12 attack. He's got lethal next turn. But there comes my Templace Warblade. Activate all my weapons, boost me up to 5 attack with first strike, and Battle Honor can attack again. So let's destroy Halfdan. Then we can act again and take out his next troop. Then we can act again and take out his next troop. And then I can act again and hit him. Close the gap between our health down to 3 points. Okay, fair enough. So he's continuing to hit me hard with his Warlord. His turn ends. My weapon has just 1 point of health left. Alrighty, what do we do here? We're going to bring up the Ionic Flare Shield for protection. We're going to play House Orlac to try and get another weapon. We're taking out the Battle Cannon for now. Play that Battle Cannon. Destroy the troop with the Battle Cannon. That will hopefully leave my Flare Shield up to protect my Warlord. He's got Command Grid, so he's looking for a tactic. Oh, there's the Wolf Claw. Breaks my shield open. And he attacks me again because he really wants to destroy the sword before I can heal it. Alright, 5 points of health left. So this is where I break open one of my Ocular Augmetics and I get my repair card. So let's play that onto the board. And I'm going to use my last point of energy to get my troop off the board so that they're not there to trigger pack attacks from flanking troops. Pack attacks from Russ from flanking troops. Okay, so he's got almost got his final bet in play, but now it's over. Because I can use my Battle Cannon to hit him, leaving him on 4 health, and then drop my first Flamer to hit him again, which is going to reduce him to 2 health, and now I can just kill him with my Warlord. But actually what I'm just going to do is go ahead and drop my second Flamer. Oh,
but you will never win.
The last fight is against a Warlord who I normally feel does pretty well against Knights. It's a Perty. So putting away Ocular Augmetics, Iron Warriors don't tend to do much with stealth troops. And okay, good. I got Overtax Reactor again. So let's throw that in for my first move. Draws a card. So Perturabo's ability normally lets him do a lot of damage to Knight Warlords. So I'm really counting on my pilot's ability to heal my weapons to save me through this battle. There's 3 points of damage on Perturabo. Okay, he goes ahead with a Void Engagement, which draws a Tactic. Oh no. And then his ability destroys my weapon. So this is why I normally believe Perturabo is good against Knights. First weapon gone already. Okay, but there's no threats on the board, which makes this a good time to play Favorite of Mars. That should take care of my energy needs, plasma needs for the rest of the match. Okay. Next is gonna be 3 energy left. We'll drop a shock lance. And let's use the ionic flare shield to try and protect me against him. So now if he plays a 2 or 3 energy troop, oh, he's got a counter attack. I forgot about that. He breaks my shield open. There's a pretty powerful troop, and he hits me hard. Great. Okay, I need to get rid of that thing before it gets pumped up too hard. So I'm going to actually activate my ability and play House Maccabeus. That will allow me to kill that unit in 1 move. There's first strike. Plus, there's the health boost to my weapon. So now my weapon should survive until my next turn. Ugh, mortar strike, so much for my weapon surviving. It's down to 6 health and he's going to nuke me again. Boom, 14. So I'm 20 points of health behind him. In fact, I'm almost in that danger zone where he can hit me with Perturable's ability and use Contrador to kill me. So let's use the Archmagus to start healing me up. Get some more plasma out there. I'm out of the danger zone and I've got a whole bunch of healing cards and abilities, so I'm feeling pretty decent. Okay, what next? We have to get rid of that troop. I mean, I could let it die during his turn, but then it's going to start triggering his Reckoning. His Whisper, rather, and I don't want that. And I've got so much energy, so I'm putting down a Flamer, giving it the health it needs to live, and just firing it off. Okay. That's his body now. Erasmus Gold, and I don't have a Caravile yet. Okay, but what I do have is a pair of flame cannons. So watch this. Even after the nerf, this is why they're still very useful cards. Gonna fire off both flame cannons. So that's 1. Fire the second one. That clears out his front line, and it's weakened Golg quite a lot, which allows my own legendary to hit him and destroy him. Another chance to heal myself some more with the Auto Simulacra. And I've gone from being 20 points behind him to just 6 points behind him. Let's get that guy back in my hand to help give me energy for later. There's another big hit from him. Followed up with another big hit. So back down to being 16 points of health behind him after that. But let's start to worry him. Whip out the Graviton Cannon because his own siege ability is not loaded right now. Blast him with the Graviton and with the Flame Cannon. So now I'm 1 turn from winning because the Flame Cannon, an attack with my Warlord, and the Graviton will kill him next turn. He pulls himself out of lethal range, and now I'm in the danger zone. If he has Contrador, and if I don't get more than 13 health by the next turn, it's over. There's a big menacing tank. Alright, so let's do this. We are going to drop the Tech Engineer for now. I was hoping for the fist, but no fist for me. Alright. Use my ability there. That's 1. Hit him. Oh wait, we have him. And now we can play the second Flame Cannon from my hand, which the Tech Engineer had created for me, and finish him off. So the Tech Engineer is really useful because you save him for late game, and he can try and produce the right weapon for your situation there. Alright, so let's take a look at my card again. My deck rather again. So here's my deck. I As I said, I personally feel it's still working after the changes. You just cannot dominate with the flame cannon anymore, but there's a lot of other tricks up the sleeve over here, and even the nerfed flame cannon is still key. I think you just saw in 2 out of the previous 3 matches, even firing each flame cannon once a turn was still critical and being able to critical in allowing me to be able to win them. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it useful. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't subscribed, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So, until we meet on the battlefield, bye for now everyone.